The day of truth. Can Alireza repeat his 2022 trio and win it all again? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final round of the Sinquefield Cup 2024. I wanted to thank you all for following my analysis and recaps during the last 3 weeks. I really appreciate that. So, going to this round, as usual, Alireza was leading the tournament with 5.5 points, 1 point ahead of the lead, and he only needed a draw with the white pieces against Ramesh Babu Pragananda from India, 19-year-old, and world number 12. Their overall face-to-face is 7 draws in classical games, no victories for any side. In this tournament, Prag drew all of his games, 50% for him. And 2 hours for both players, plus 30 seconds. Let's jump right into the action. Let's see what happened. Alireza started with pawn to e4. And Prag played pawn to e6 here. French, kind of a surprise. He didn't want to play e4, e5. I don't know. He didn't want to go all in with c5, kind of in the middle. Alireza played pawn to d4, gaining all the space in the center with the pawns, and pawn to d5. Momentarily, black forget about the center and attacks it immediately with d5, and this is called French defense. White has a lot of options here, and probably white could take on d5 and say, okay, I'm playing for drop, and Prag probably was preparing, actually wanted to fight against this. But Alireza decided to play knight to c3 here and say, okay, not yet. I mean, recently ed5 is one of the main moves, actually. I mean, I think Hikaru or even Prag played this in candidates. I mean, recently this line is one of the main lines. You can actually fight for advantage like this: h3, c4. And you sometimes go c5, bishop d3, queen c2. Long time ago, like 5 to 10 years ago, it was like a draw. I mean, it was completely symmetrical, no chance for white to win. But nowadays, computers find some chances. Alireza says, okay, we play knight c3 first, main move, and let's see what he wants. We have always this option of taking on d5. So Prag plays knight to f6, classical French, provoking e5, coming back and attacking the center on with f6 and c5 on the tip and on the base of the pawn structure. But Alireza doesn't go to the main line. He plays bishop g5. He played this move before, pins the knight temporarily. He played this move against Van Forest played this move against Alireza in Tata Steel 2024 earlier this year. And normally people nowadays take on e4, knight f bishop e7, knight f6, takes, and queen f6. This is a very solid position for black. And people play h6 also recently. I mean, they sack the pawn on d5 temporarily for bishop b4, and they take it back after. So, but this move that Prag played is called McCutchen, which is a very nostalgic line. I mean, nowadays you cannot find any top-level game in this position. It's only for 10 years ago it was fine, and this line is kind of refuted. But Alireza doesn't go for the main lines against McCutchen. Actually, the history is that in 1885, McCutchen he was apparently a lawyer from Pennsylvania. He won against Steinitz in a simultaneous game. Steinitz was world champion. A simultaneous game in 28 moves with the black pieces, and from there it got very popular. So the main line, of course, is e5. You think the knight is lost, but no, black can attack the bishop, and if you go here g5, and if you take my bishop, you win a pawn, but actually the rook comes here and the queen takes back the pawn on g7. So after h6, normally nowadays, I mean, main line is bishop d2, but nowadays you can come back to even c1 or e3. And I think bishop d2 still is the best move, knight d4. And here white can just sack the pawn on c3 with bishop c1. And I think that's why this line is not very good, because in multiple ways you can just sack this and go for bishop d3, queen g4, h4. And white has a very nice advantage. But Alireza just decides to take on d5, a move that Capablanca played it 100 years ago, Lasker played it, a lot of strong players, has a beautiful game in this endgame. And in this position, Alireza shows that he wants to be solid, and very logical option here. Here, Prague takes with the queen, of course, it's the main move. If you take with the pawn, it's not good, because I just put the queen on f3, and this double pawn on f6 is not very enjoyable. Knight c6, bishop b5, bishop b6, takes, and this is not very enjoyable to play for black. So that's why they take with the queen and attack the bishop. And in this position, of course, the main line is to take on f6, bishop c3, takes, and queen d2. These are the absolute best moves. Engine analyze, queen f4 and queen a5, stuff like that. Huifan also has a game against Vallejo in recent time, 2017, I think. Queen a5, bishop like d3, bishop d7, white sometimes exchange queens and stuff like that. But in this position, Alireza just guards the bishop, and says, okay, if you want knight e4, you're welcome. And Prague doesn't need second invitation, goes knight e4. Now bishop d2 is only move, because everything is under attack, or you have to defend this knight. And in this position, you have to be careful. If you take the bishop, I just take it back, and you give me a boost in development, and I don't even double up my pawns. And if you take here, again, I take with the pawn here, c4, bishop d3, you give me a boost in development. So that's why they take with the bishop on c3, and here you take with the pawn, not with the bishop, because if you're having 3 pawn islands here against 2 pawn islands, you want to keep the pieces a little bit on the board. And if you want to give the 2 bishop advantage, at least you get a boost in development as well, a faster development. And that's why Prague takes the bishop, because otherwise I can play c4, bishop e3, and enjoy my 2 bishop advantage. And in this position, he plays b6. Be careful if you play c5 so soon. Sometimes bishop e2, knight e5, bishop f3, then you cannot develop your bishop from this diagonal. b6, bishop d3, bringing the bishop to the most logical and the most powerful diagonal square. And in this position, he plays bishop b7. I mean, if you play bishop a6, try to exchange these bishops. In French, it's very common to exchange this French bishop. I mean, I don't react. I can play queen f4, and you just improved my pawn to a better square. So that's why he played bishop b7. He said it's a very good diagonal. Sometimes maybe we can checkmate on g2. Alireza goes castle, knight to d7. With castle, actually, you free up this e1 square, actually. Castling not all the time is for king safety. For activating the rook, freeing up e1 square, rook fe1, we are threatening bishop e4. And here, Prague played queen to d6. And in this position, Alireza played a very natural move, simple move, just queen e3, guarding the knight. But rook e3 was more ambitious. With for example, if you go castle, rook is coming to e1, and there is no option of, I mean, there is a still option of bishop f3, but my rook is getting activated instead of the queen, and I bring all the guys towards the king. Knight e5 is actually coming, which is annoying. For example, rook d8. This pawn is a very strategical pawn. We don't care about this ugly pawn structure. We care about this bishop, rook, queen, provoking some weaknesses there, trying to attack. But Alireza played queen e3, giving the chance for Prague for this beautiful positional exchange. Bishop takes f3. To beginner eyes, it's like, what? It's just very crazy. This bishop is much more powerful than this knight, but this knight e5 is annoying. For example, if you go castle, knight comes to e5, and this pawn comes to e5, queen h3, provoking some weakness. We have target, but you got no targets, actually. So Prague very correctly takes the knight, and now black kind of just safe, kind of, you can say black equalized in this position. He goes castle and a4, but okay, Alireza didn't care a lot about equalization and stuff like that. He just needed to be super solid and is still playing good moves. a4, very common idea, going to liquidize one of our islands, pawn islands, with a5. c5, and he goes very beautiful move a5 and sack temporarily the pawn on d4, because I can always take it back with this double attack queen e4. And also there is in between move, because if you take with the pawn, I take the rook for free, triangle. You have to take with a knight or queen. I have queen e4, take back the pawn, and that's very solid. This passed pawn is not dangerous at all. I have more central control and central pawns. And here Prague plays rook a d8, didn't want to lose this rook, gave up the a file, And in this position, Alireza offered the exchange of queens. If you don't want to exchange queens, if you go here d5, very annoying. And if you go to c6, bishop e4, I chase your queen. The queen doesn't have a good square. So Prague said, okay, I don't exchange, but I improve my knight. You can exchange yourself. Alireza played rook eb1, putting pressure on this backward pawn, which is not guarded by any other pawn. It's called backward pawn. And after cd, Alireza exchanges the queen and takes the pawn on d4. If you take my pawn, I take your pawn. That's what happened. And in this endgame, we have 4 pawns against 4 pawns. This is a passed pawn. We have bishop. I mean, black has the upper hand a little bit because the game is kind of in 2 sides. But this queen side is really empty. So this knight can really jump around. You cannot really push your pawn. This is white who should be a little more careful actually. Knight to d7 attacks the rook, asking the question, going for knight c5 or knight d5. Goes knight rook c6, stopping knight c5 and guarding this pawn on c2. Knight e5, rook to c3. If you want to take, I take with the rook. That rook endgame is always a draw. g6, putting all the pawns in the same color of the bishop. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. In this case, you limit this bishop and we cannot target the weaknesses. So rook to a5, attacking the knight. Rook to b8, beautiful move. Double exclamation mark, because you think, okay, for example, if you take the knight, okay, he just wants to exchange pieces. Rook takes e5, probably he just wants to give check, and after bishop f1, rook d1, okay, g3, we just draw this, all is fine. But actually after rook e5, oops, you lose the game with rook d3, and bye-bye Sinquefield Cup. And you have back rank problem, as it's called the tactic. So Alireza doesn't take the knight, fortunately, and he goes for pawn to, he goes for bishop f1. He goes to bishop to f1, just brings his bishop to, beside his king, very comfy. And in this position, you can try to double up on the first rank, but I can always defend my king with g3, king g2, for example. So Prague plays knight g4. Let me see what happens after rook b1, for example. Rook b1. Oh, the knight is hanging actually. Sorry. Knight g4 moves the knight. He doesn't want to lose as well. H3, knight f6, and rook to d3. Okay, stopping this rook at least coming to d1. Rook e4. Prague wanted to not give the free draw, still was fighting. Rook d1, finally controlling the first rank. Rook b4, g3, giving some I don't know, some room to the king. Rook c8, bishop d3, guarding the pawn. H5, gaining some space, very typical move. He wants h4 to create some weaknesses on the king side. Still, you have to stop his ideas, otherwise your position gets a bit hard to play. If he manages to fix this pawn structure on h3 and g4. h4 by Alireza, king g7, king g2, natural moves. Rook c7, stopping rook a7, rook to a1, going for rook a7, exchanging the rooks. And in this position, king f6, rook to c7 again, escorting this pawn. Again, rook to b1, and now Alireza finds a beautiful idea. He brings his bishop to attack the knight. The knight is kind of annoying. The knight comes back, and bishop to f3. His idea, as we will see, he wants to bring his bishop to a6 and guard c4. And whenever you attack me with rook d2, knight g4, I have king f1 with the idea of bishop e2. King g7, rook c5, rook e1, guards the knight. Again, rook c7. They repeated 2 times here. King, and after rook d2, king f1, that was the plan. After knight g4, we have bishop to e2. And in this position, actually, Alireza was conscious, because after he claimed draw with king g2, because if he had this position and moved 41, move 45, and move now 47, it doesn't need to be 3 moves consecutively. So Alireza claims the draw here with king g2, and the arbiter confirmed it, and it means Alireza won the Sinquefield Cup as well in 2022. Another trio for the GOAT. and he repeats his success from 2022. He won it all already in 2022 with 19 years old. In Rapid and Blitz, I think he underperformed because in 2022 he won with 4 rounds to spare. Now, this year he won with 2 rounds to spare, but victory is victory. And in Sinquefield Cup, I think he had a better performance. And yeah, this is the GCT overall standing and winnings, and this is the standing of the Rapid and Blitz and the standing of the Sinquefield Cup. As you can see, he won it all, and his next tournament going to be in Paris, the final of SP Chess Championship, live in Paris, 6th of September, 4 p.m. Central European time, I think. But anyways, this trio was really sweet after that 2022 trio. I really enjoyed that. I want to thank you all for following my recaps during the last 3 weeks. Again, as I said in the beginning of the video, I really appreciate that. I mean, he was just dominating. He was dominating in St. Louis during the last 3 weeks. That was very enjoyable to see. And yeah, I hope we learned a lot of things from his inspiring and dynamic and ambitious games. He always tries to create chaos, exciting games, and not playing boring chess, at least. And he won it all. He won it all. Rapid and Blitz, Grand Chess Tour, and the Sinquefield Cup, winning around $323,000. And yeah, don't forget to like this video, put comment and subscribe. Let me reach to 1,000 subscribers. And thank you guys for watching, and wish you guys all the best. See you guys in the next videos. Ciao, ciao.